Right-wing groups, including UKIP, are apparently attempting to infiltrate child protection charities. Why, you may ask? Well, to further an anti-Islam agenda. So say officials from the government's counter-extremism programme. Worth remembering, of course, that they now consider, don't they, far-right terrorism in this country to be the biggest threat of all. Yeah. Officers from Prevent said far-right figures were using voluntary groups to stir up tensions in towns with historical problems of child sexual exploitation. In Rochdale, a community group for child sexual abuse survivors, Shatter Boys, it's called, said it had been approached repeatedly by senior UKIP figures, including Lord Pearson, who offered to introduce them to millionaire donors and fund an open-top bus to raise the alarm about grooming gangs.
Pearson's offer of funding, made during a private lunch at the House of Lords, followed months of courting by UKIP family spokesman Alan Craig, who last year said Muslim grooming gangs had committed a, and I quote, Holocaust of our children.
Craig, who said paedophilia could be traced back to, quote, Muhammad himself. I mean, how do these... Anyway, he approached the Rochdale-based group on social media before attending one of its street patrols with a leading member of the Democratic Football Lads Alliance. Am I living in a parallel universe here? UKIP leader Gerald Batten, you may remember, spoke at a rally in Rochdale organised by the Democratic Football Lads Alliance last April. And at the time, as I recall, I think the DFLA had described Greater Manchester Town as being on its hit list for anti-grooming demonstrations. I have to say the Democratic Football Lads Alliance is a new one on me. Let's turn for guidance here to Daniel Wolstencroft, founder of Shatter Boys, that community group we mentioned for child sexual abuse survivors. Good afternoon to you, Daniel.
Good afternoon, Matthew. You okay?
It's a funny question to ask, really. There's a part of me, if I'm absolutely honest, that doesn't want to give the likes of Craig the oxygen of publicity at all. But these are important issues and they need to be addressed. Would you accept, Daniel, that actually the gateway for these groups was actually the failing of the police and in some cases child protection, those charged with child protection in, for example, the Rochdale area, because they failed the children so badly.
They certainly did.
They opened the door to this kind of snide politicisation of it, I suppose.
Yeah, so if the council, the police, other people in Rochdale, social workers, people in a position of authority and power, had dealt with this situation properly in the first place and had not swerved accountability and have accepted accountability, investigations that have been done by the police properly, then I don't think we'd be in this situation, to be quite honest with you.
So the door was pushed ajar by the failings of those key services.
I 1,000,000% believe that. Yes, I do. Right. And as well, a lack of support services for survivors as well. So you've got a lot of survivors, like sort of groups like myself, coming together, standing up. We're not part. We're autonomous. We're not part of any council, NHS, anybody like that. So we can sort of be free with our voices. But what we do is, as survivors, we support each other. We're a group that's come together to campaign for change and offer peer support to other survivors.
Would you be tempted? I mean, let's put it in context. Last week, Kevin and I were talking about a number of significant donations to the Tory party by high-profile Russians with fairly dodgy backgrounds, shall we say? And the Tory party didn't hesitate to take the cash, and this is even after the attempted assassination, eventual death down in Salisbury. Were you tempted to take the money that Lord Pearson was talking about?
No, not whatsoever,
really?
To be honest with you.
So
no.
You've got more morals than the Tory party, then? We've established that.
Well, that's not difficult.
Who hasn't?
No, not at all, because the thing is, what they want to do is they want me to push the anti-Muslim agenda. And what we do is we fight for survivors and for survivors' voices to be heard. So if I was to get in bed with UKIP and Lord Pearson and Alan Craig, not literally, obviously that would be horrific.
Yeah.
But if I was to accept money off them, it's like how criminals work. It's like how drug dealers work. So if you accept money off somebody, then you're beholden to them and you have to push their agenda. So if they got behind us and supported us, then how long would it be? Yeah, so they come and said, right, you owe us a favour. You need to do this. You need to, for example, like Lord Pearson suggested, get on top of an open-top bus because I've got a bit of a big mouth with a megaphone and start shouting about Muslim rape gangs.
Now, well, can we? I mean, because the really tricky thing to deal with, particularly with Rochdale and Rotherham, I think, is the fact that the perpetrators were almost exclusively Muslim. In fact, I think they were all Muslim in Rochdale. Now, that is not to say that all Muslims are child abusers. However, many establishment figures were demanding the Muslim community did more. But I'm very mindful of the fact, for example, when we had the troubles in Northern Ireland, we weren't going around churches, knocking on C of E churches or Catholic churches, demanding the congregations there did more. Do you think there is that Islam... I mean, let's ask the question, right? Do you think there is an issue here involving certain followers of Islam in certain communities with child abuse still?
I think there's a really bad problem with that, to be honest with you. But I don't think it's got anything to do with. I don't think it's got anything to do with religion. To be quite honest with you, it's just, to me, a paedophile's a paedophile. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what colour they are. Do you know what I mean? It just so happens that it's of prominence in Rochdale that it is, as they're being labelled, Muslim rape gangs are operating. But, let's not forget about flipping Noel View, the abuse on that.
Well said.
Cyril Smith, let's not forget about that. I couldn't care less what colour someone is. We target all perpetrators and we target all survivors.
Do you have any?
Sorry,
Daniel. Do you have any concerns at all that other child abuse protection charities and the likes may give in and take the money? Well, it's not really any of my business, that, to be honest with you, but I'm just concerned about sort of our group. Sure. That job's like sort of really for prevent. I just encourage people that if this is happening to not be scared, not be afraid, because there is a real risk out there, because you are dealing with some thugs. Do you know what I mean? We can't get away from that. It's all documented. There's videos. Do you know what I mean? I just hope that people have the courage to sort of stand up to them and say, listen, no, you're not infiltrating. Because the thing is, Matthew, it takes an average of 27 years for a male to disclose sexual abuse. Do you know what I mean? So when someone finally does and plucks up the courage and speaks out, the last thing you want is someone like Tommy Robinson or UKIP jumping on that bandwagon, taking credit for the hard work that they've done on their self. Do you know what I mean? And then twisting it round and making it all about brown faces. Daniel Wolstencroft, I've got to leave it there, but I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Amanda Prowse, my special guest, is cheering and clapping you on just off microphone there. And I'd just like to remind any listeners that may be concerned about child abuse, particularly against boys and young men, check out Shatter Boys. That's the community group that Daniel Wolstencroft is involved with. Thanks for that, Daniel.